happened to hear a video of Yosef taken a few days before he passed away. I was in Eretz Yisroel. I went to go visit him in days 2 Behuin, and I'm going to pass it around to anybody who's interested to see it. It's quite interesting. Featured speaker here tonight, and that's the way it should be, because after all, Rabbi Yosef ben Yisroel Dovid Gatli attended shiurim in this shul for tens of years before I got here, maybe before I was born. But I did have the big schus of learning with Rabbi Yosef. We went through Shas, and even after he went to Eretz Yisroel, as the people who come to this shir know, I traveled to Yisroel about 6-7 times a year. So since he left Brooklyn, I've been there maybe 40 times. And almost every time I went to visit him. And almost each time he would tell me things that he heard from my shir that day or the day before. Because he would always be listening on the phone or with a tape or with a disc. He continued keeping in touch with the shir of Shomrei Emunah until Kamat's last day. Because I have to make my comments short, I'm going to go to the end of the Masechta. I just want to say a little story. Today is Yud Dalet Sivan, and in the year Tuf Pei Aleph on Yud Dalet Sivan, there was a very great man who passed away, and his name was Reb Chaim Volozhin. Anyone who went ever to learn in the yeshiva heard about Reb Chaim Volozhin. The day that they put the Even Apina, how do you say that name? Cornerstone. The day they put down the cornerstone in the yeshiva of Volozhin, Reb Chaim Volozhin fasted that day, and he davened that day, and he cried that day. And his Talmidim said that when it came to making the cement for the first pieces of bricks, they didn't need any water. They were able to use the tears of Reb Chaim Volozhin. Gives us a about understanding about who Reb Chaim Volozhin was. Now, Reb Chaim Volozhin one day told the following story, and I heard this story from the Shalom Shvadron. And when Shalom Shvadron told the story, he gave a speech at Beis Yaakov 42 years ago, and he said that he heard the story from Reb Elia Lapian. And he said that Reb Elia Lapian heard the story from Reb Hirsch, and Reb Hirsch heard it from Reb Zundel. He went all the way up to Reb Chaim Volozhin. Ish mi pi ish, Reb Chaim Volozhin. The story goes like this, Bekitzer, that Reb Chaim Volozhin used to walk around in the alley, in the hallway of the yeshiva in the evening to see how the boys are learning, and he met a boy in the hallway who had passed away that week. He was in his shiva, and he sees the boy standing there. He passed away 4 days ago, and this boy is standing there. Chaim Volozhin told this story. He asked her, "What are you doing here?" So he said, "Let me tell you. I came up to Shemayim, and all the gates were open. They welcomed me with open arms because he must have been a chashuv boy. And when I wanted to go into Gan Eden, the Shomer HaPesach, the gate watcher, so you stay here next to me. The gate watcher didn't let him in. So he said, 'Why don't you let me into Gan Eden?' He said, 'Because of the Ovoin of Gezel Yotku, because you're a thief.' He said, 'I'm a thief. I never stole anything from anybody. What did I do?' So he said, 'I'll remind you. One day when you were on your way home from the yeshiva, when you were going to the train station, a boy walked you to the train station. And when you got to the train station, you remembered that the place where you stayed, your achsanya, your host, where you stayed, those days there were no dormitories, you owed him 7 zlotys, like 70 cents. So you took 7 zlotys out of your pocket, and you gave it to your friend, and you ask your friend, please go give it to this lady where I stayed in her apartment. Your friend, he never paid the 7 zlotys. He didn't make a big deal out of it. There was no big deal. He never paid it. So the Shomrei Pesach took an egg and says, if you're a thief. You didn't pay the 7 zlotys you owed the lady when you stayed. But since it's not your fault, you gave the money to your friend. It's your friend who's the one who didn't forward the money to the Shomrei, to the lady, to the host. We gave you a chance. You should come back to this world and be misaken this avein. So therefore, he's asking now the Rosh Hashiva, the Chaim Volozhiner, that please, if you could take care of this for me, and take care of the 7 zlotys. I heard the story many times from my Rebbe, Rabbi Yisroel Spinner, and he used to tell the boys how important it is when you go out in the world of business. You should remember that the first question they're going to ask you is Nususu v'nusatu v'Emunah. Because if you can't answer that one, they're not going any further. They're sending you right back. This is how I would like to what?
Sending you back?
Gilgul, not the same way like this boy. Gilgul Neshamas, he has to be Misakin. Now, I was in Eretz Yisroel, mamash a few days before Rabbi Yosef passed away. Is his wife here? No. I was in Eretz Yisroel a few days before. What?
I was there when you came.
You were there, the daughter.
Right.
Okay, so you know this, maybe you'll remember this. When I came in to see him, I made a comment to Mrs. Gottlieb that he's a very nice man, Mr. Gottlieb. So she says to me, what a Yid! What a Yid! You remember? She doesn't remember. It was insignificant. She probably heard it a lot of times. What a Yid, she said to me. And it occurred to me, who knows a person better than his wife? Everybody that's sitting here, if you're dishonest, your wife knows it, even if you may think she doesn't. If you don't go to a shir in the morning, your wife knows it. If you don't go to a shir at night, your wife knows it. If you don't make minyan in the morning, your wife knows it. If you don't make minyan at night, your wife knows it. Everything about you, nobody knows better than your wife. If after being married for over 70 years, your wife says, what a Yid, that is saying something about the Yosef Gottlieb. And this is Emes. He was Take, someone that I'm convinced, and I spoke to him all the time, and if you listen to my shiurim, you can hear it on the system of Kohen Alushin. He's always asking questions, and he's always making very shrewd little comments. He's a very shrewd man, and he's always telling little jokes. He's a very good joke teller, and it's all on the system. You see, you can listen to it even today. And you could just feel that he was an El Chayid. The Shaila of the Susul and the Satya Emunah, the Yosef Gottlieb doesn't have a problem with it. The Shaila of Kuvatu Itim La Toiret, the Yosef Gottlieb doesn't have a problem with it. Even at his old age, when he was in that place, Base 2 Ayuid, many times when I came to see him, he was sitting by the shir. They had shiurim there all the time. I had to wait until the shir finishes. He was constantly by the shir. So, for him, nobody has to cry for him. He's doing okay. He's in a very, very nice place in Gan Eden, and he's learning Torah with Moshe Rabbeinu. And I'm going to finish with one more word. There's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says like this: Havei mit Talmidov shalaharn, oyev shulon v'roidev shulon, oyev v'sabriyos v'mekarbon l'toyde. There's a sefer called Sefer Charedim. The Sefer Charedim in Perek Ches asks the question, why does it say you should be a Talmid of a Harn? Talmid means that you learn in his yeshiva. How do you become a Talmid of a Harn? If you were trying to say that you should act like a Harn, it should have said, Hadbeik b'midoisov. Translated, Hadbeik b'midoisov. You should follow his ways. How do you become a Talmid of a Harn? Says the Sefer Charedim, the Kadmon, that in the Zohar HaKudosh in Parshas Sholach, our week, this week's Parsha, the Zohar says that in Shomayim there is a yeshiva, just like there's a yeshivas here, there's a yeshiva in Shomayim. And there's Mesiftas. In Shomayim there's a Mesifta called Mesifta de Rachamise, the Mesifta of people that have Rachmanas and others. The Rosh Hashiva is a Harna Kohen. You live your life when you have Rachmanas on others, you're going to go into that yeshiva. That's what the Mishnah is telling you. Havei mit Talmid of Shalahar. You want to be a Talmud of a Harn? Oye v'sabriois v'karbon l'toyre. Now there's a man who was my teacher when I went to the first grade in Williamsburg, the Kasna Yeshiva. We're talking here 50 plus years ago. There was a man by the name of Naftali Blackman. He was a former United States Marine who was a from Yid. He didn't have any family. And my father came to visit at the first PTA to see how his son is doing in school. He was my first grade English teacher. And after my father spoke to him for a few minutes, he asked him about his family. And it turned out he doesn't have any family. So my father invited him to come eat with us for Shabbos. On that day, for the next 20 years, he ate with us every Shabbos. And when my father passed away, for the next 20 years, he ate by me for Shabbos. That was the Yiddish my father left me. But anyway, this Naftali Blackman, when he passed away, we had to bury him. So he had no relatives. And I started thinking, what do we do? I started making a few calls, and everybody wants a lot of money. So I mentioned it by the shir that day. I mentioned it by the shir that morning in Kahal Shomrei Emunah. Mr. Gottlieb comes over to me and he says, it's not a problem, I'll take care of it. Shomrei Emunah has a plot someplace here, and we have place for him. Tell the person to call me, I'll take care of the whole thing. And Kachave, Naftali Blackman was laid to rest in the place of Kahal Shomrei Emunah. I'm giving an example that Yosef Gottlieb was a Yid with a heart. He was not somebody who made believe he didn't hear. You know, there are people, when they hear somebody needs something, they make believe they didn't hear anything. It's a very big concern, because if you heard, it's a sign in Shemayim that you were supposed to hear. If you're standing online in the supermarket, and there's a young person in front of you, she may be Puerto Rican, but if she doesn't have enough money to pay for the groceries, and she's short $14, and the cashier says you have to put some things back on the shelf because you don't have enough money, and you're standing behind her, and you hear this, why are you hearing this? You could have been in the back of the line and not hear anything. This is the Soyon, the Shamayim. They want to see, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to make believe you don't hear, or you'll take $15 out of your pocket? And this was Rabbi Yosef Gottlieb. He didn't make believe that he doesn't hear. When he knew that somebody needs help, he was there. I have a new sefer that I'm putting out now. I'm a Masechta Tainus and Moed Kuten. I just want to tell the Mishpucha. I'm not asking for anything. I don't need any money, Baruch Hashem. But I just want to let them know that the sefer went into print yesterday. So I put in a nice piece. Zikaron beheichel Hashem echad meha'aroyos shebechaburo. One of the lions of our group. שהשתתף אסורויס בשונים בקביעס בשיעירי תוירה פעמיים בכל יום איש החסד ראש הכול דקהל שומרי אמונה ונאמונס ובהצנה לחס כבוית שמוי תפארתוי רבי יוסף בן רבי ישרול דוvid גטלי שנפטר לבייס אוילם י' אודר בייס תופשיין ein דלת והמיש מוסוי צירולו בצויר החיים זיכרוי לו יוסף Now, we'll make a scene on the second of Shishuna. So this will be a Siddur Mitzvah. All those that started eating already, don't worry about it. Then when I started talking, this became a Siddur Mitzvah. If the rabbi wants to know from where I know this, I'll discuss it with him later. Okay. At the very end of the second of Shishuna, it says as follows: Umar Abacha Baravire. Rabbi Friedman Chaside, Toiker Hoyu Rabbi Gamliel. But Gamliel, he would say that the Shliach Tzibur, who davens for the Ummah, he Hoyte, he paters. He exempts. Afila Amshe Besudois. Even people who didn't come to shul. You hear this? If somebody didn't come to shul, and as we'll see later, because he was an oinus, maybe because he had to go to work. In the times of the Gemara, not everybody davened. The Shliach Tzibur would be moitzi everybody. So he would be moitzi him also. And the Gemara says It's mashma that if he's pattering the people that are not coming to shul, Avadi is pattering the ones that are coming to shul. Says the Gemara, no, Adrab, it shouldn't be that way. Hana Anisa, the ones who couldn't come to shul, they're in better shape. They couldn't come, they were oinus.
Oinus, they were unintentional.
It was unintentional. But Hana, the people from the town, Lo Anisa, they should have come to daven. Why didn't they come? So the Gemara, the ones that came even, they should daven themselves. Why should the Shliach Tzibur be more to them? Says the Gemara, the Tuna, Aber bereder auf der Yumen Barchia, Amsha Choyle Kehanen, Eine Bechlal Druche. Gemara brings a raya to this Svura that we have a halucha that the people, while the Kehanim are doing their best Kehanim, people that are not in front of the Kehanim, even if they're in shul, but since they're in the back of them, they're not the chelik of the Druche. So the Gemara means to say that the people who are in the fields, they are an oinus. So they have no choice, but if you're in shul and you're not an oinus, why should you be included in the bruch if you're not in the right place? And it says the Gemara, no, ki useluf moment Rab Yaakov, Bayidu, Rab Shimon Chassidus, but puterim gemila la amshe besudois. Tak, it's true. Only those that were oinus, they're puter with the shliach tzibur. My tama mishim the anise b'melucha avavir loy. Those that were able to daven, they're not puter because they should have come. And with this, we end Masechta Rosh Hashanah. There's a lot to discuss here, halacha-wise and otherwise. You see from this Gemara that it's very important that before you give a speech, you should prepare yourself. And the Gemara says, a minute before, that the Shliach Tzibur davens the quiet Shemon Esrei. Why does he daven the quiet Shemon Esrei? He's going to daven the Shemon Esrei loud. Why does he have to daven twice for? Says the Gemara, the reason why he davens together with everybody, the quiet Shemon Esrei, so he should prepare himself that he has to now daven the Hoicha Shemon Esrei. He should be prepared. Something that he does all the time. But still, when you're going to get up and do something in front of a tzibur, you have to be prepared. My father used to tell me that Rav Deshitsky would say that you can't say a pasuk chumash in public without being prepared. Hadran alach Masechta Rosh Hashanah v'Hadran Chalan. Hadran alach Masechta Rosh Hashanah v'Hadran Chalan. It's not Shemon Masechta Rosh Hashanah. It's not Shemon. Leibal Muhudain leibal Medusah. Hadran alach Masechta Rosh Hashanah v'Hadran Chalan. Hadran alach Masechta Rosh Hashanah v'Hadran Chalan. It's not Shemon Masechta Rosh Hashanah v'Hadran Chalan. You listen to me. Chad Noel Ayin Rab Sain Shmei. Last time I was there. Is there a son here? Yeah. One of them can say the Kaddish. Hey, Emunah Loyal Babu Chanina Bar Pupa Ruma Bar Pupa Nachman Bar Pupa Chuy Bar Pupa Abba Mary Bar Pupa Rafra Bar Pupa Ruchus Bar Pupa Surcha Bar Pupa Adda Bar Pupa Duna Bar Pupa Halaf Ruma Adonai Nani Zivus Lach Mufin Mufin Lach Mufin Yisroel V'ni Yekluna Nachman Mitzatzuayim Mitzatzuayim Lach Mufin Yisroel V'ni Yishmech Lam Mitzatzechu Loyal B'Chakmayim Mitzatzechu V'Yahel V'Yili Yili B'Tum B'Chakech Alaman Loyal Boish Loyal Loyesh Kaf Kidech Kibam K'Yisuni V'Lichat Adonai V'Yim Chakech Umayim Selhud Moigim Nachman Lefanei Chad Adonai Rab Sain Shecham Tuchalkein Yoishmei B'Semedrish By the way, if I insulted anybody, I apologize. But tomorrow you can start coming to the shir. What? It's okay. It's not a hefsek. Only hefsek, Zud the Torah, is between two bruches. V'loi samtu chalkeini miyoishbei kirunois. Even by davening. She'uni mashkimin v'hei mashkimin. Uni mashkimin l'divrei Torah v'hei mashkimin l'dvuri b'tema. Uni ameli v'hem ameli. Uni ameli m'mekabli b'schad v'hem ameli v'einam m'kabli b'schad. By the way, if you make a bruche, hamoitzi lecha min ha'uretz. And now, you remembered, I'm talking to you. If you make a bruche, hamoitzi lecha min ha'uretz. And now you remember you forgot to give your horse to eat that day. You're allowed to tell somebody, give the horse to eat. That's not a hefsek. Because you're supposed to give the horse to eat before you eat. That's a chelik of your hamoitzi lecha min ha'uretz. What I'm saying now about coming to a shir, this is a very big chelik of the scene. Maybe the most important chelik. Okay. Shesamtu chalkeini miyoishbei beis hamedrash v'lo samtu chalkeini miyoishbei kirunois. She'uni mashkimim v'hei mashkimim. Uni mashkimim l'divrei Torah v'hei mashkimim l'dvurim b'teirim. Uni amelim v'hei amelim. Uni amelim m'mekablim schar v'hei amelim m'mekablim schar. אין מקבל צחל und nur zum einmal und חייל נבו ירוצו לשחר שלמה ואתו רין תמיד לשחר זן שלו ממנו ויחצי ימי ויפתח לו ירוצו לפני אחד נוי לייק שם שזה תמיד לסיים סנטר שונה קייט אז להם להסקל gesagt es ist wurde mal mit der Simon wenn mal den Namen für Glas zum kein gesehen haben zu sagen wir haben das Riskort nur haben wir mit gekommen ja wir will sagen schon tun schon mit dieser gesehen da deinen das kann die besser von dann äußerlich ושוכבו תשמעו לכו והקצויסו גיב שיחכו כביר בימכו בסיפור חושנו ישחיים או יכולים בימינו